Hundreds of employees are now out of a job tonight after a national car dealership unexpectedly shut down. The company abruptly closing all 40 locations, including 3 right here in the Bay Area.
A large Tampa car dealership abruptly closed its doors today, leaving already frustrated customers wondering what to do next.
Those 6 words, delivered in a trembling voice by Infiniti's regional director, silenced the video conference of 47 dealers last Tuesday. After decades in America, the luxury brand was pulling the plug, leaving a network of stunned dealers with millions in unsold inventory and thousands of employees facing unemployment. Ryan Thompson, who invested his life savings in his Atlanta Infiniti dealership 17 years ago, stared at his screen in disbelief. I kept waiting for him to say, "Just kidding," or announce some miracle turnaround plan, Ryan tells me, standing in his now empty showroom where a property for sale sign hangs in the window. Instead, he just apologized and ended the call. 17 years of my life, gone in a 6-minute meeting. Ryan's nightmare is just the beginning. The confidential industry documents I've obtained reveal 7 major automotive brands already executing quiet exit strategies from the American market. Their dealer networks are collapsing, financial losses have become unsustainable, and parent companies have made the brutal decision to pull the plug. What's happening to these brands will change how you think about the automotive industry forever. Ryan's deserted Infiniti showroom is just the tip of a much larger iceberg. To grasp the full scale of the automotive extinction event unfolding across America, you have to follow the money, and it's vanishing fast. Nissan, Infiniti's parent company, just posted a staggering $4.5 billion annual loss, the worst in its 91-year history. This isn't a COVID hangover or a temporary dip. It's the fallout of years of bad bets, missed trends, and a crumbling business model that's dragging one of Japan's biggest automakers to the edge. We're in full crisis mode, confesses Takashi Yamada, a senior Nissan executive speaking under condition of anonymity. On our video call, his voice is steady, but his eyes are exhausted. North America alone lost $1.38 billion in Q1. The board has approved 7 plant closures and a 15% workforce cut, but truthfully, it may not be enough. That collapse is hitting American dealerships like a wrecking ball. David Chen ran a successful Nissan store in Chicago for 22 years. Now, he walks me through an empty showroom, each step echoing off bare walls. Last year, I sold 120 cars a month. By the end, it was 17, at huge losses, just to stay afloat. He stops at a wall of team photos, trailing his fingers across the faces. Telling them we were done was the hardest moment of my life. What David reveals next shows just how dire things have become. Nissan started delaying warranty payments by 90 days. Parts shipments dried up. Marketing vanished overnight, he says, frustration rising. This isn't belt-tightening. This is a company bleeding cash and preparing to pull the plug. It's a pattern repeating across the industry, and it's exposing which brands might not make it to 2026. While Nissan teeters, Infiniti is already in retreat. Once aiming to rival Lexus and BMW, the brand has lost 47 dealers in 6 months. The rest are quietly bracing for shutdowns. Infiniti's done in the US, Ryan says, leading me through what used to be his service bay, now stripped bare. They haven't released a real new model in years. Sales are down 63% since 2019. Nissan's letting it die so they can focus on survival. Infiniti's fall exposes a brutal industry truth. In times of crisis, luxury divisions are the first to go. Once viewed as high-margin profit machines, they become liabilities when the core brand is at risk. And Infiniti isn't alone. Lincoln, Ford's luxury arm, is in the same death spiral. With a shrinking lineup, dwindling dealer count, and Ford prioritizing electric vehicle development, Lincoln is barely hanging on. Lincoln is a fleet brand now, says Michael Park, who gave up his Lincoln franchise after 28 years. We stand in his former showroom, now selling used cars. They've lost 87 standalone dealers in 3 years. Retail's dead. The brand has no future here. What's happening is a restructuring of the entire market. The traditional 3-tier hierarchy, mainstream, mid-luxury, premium, is disappearing. In its place, a 2-tier system, affordable or ultra-luxury. The middle ground, getting erased. But the scariest fallout is what this means for the people who already own these vehicles. Sarah Martinez, a 34-year-old designer, bought a 2023 Nissan Rogue last year. Now she's staring down the real possibility that her car and brand could be orphaned. "I'm terrified," she says. "If they go under, who services my car? Will my warranty be worthless? What if I can't even get parts?" Her fear is justified. When brands vanish, owners often see their car's value plummet by 30 to 40% overnight. Parts become harder to find. Warranty service becomes a gamble. Dealerships close. Resale tanks. The canaries in the coal mine, Infiniti, Lincoln, and others, are already falling silent. The extinction event isn't coming. It's already here. And more brands are on the chopping block than anyone wants to admit. As Japanese brands like Nissan and Infiniti cling to survival, an even more painful extinction is quietly unfolding at home, with iconic American nameplates vanishing from the roads they once ruled. Dodge, once the embodiment of raw power and rebellious muscle, is collapsing fast. Sales are down a stunning 48% in the first half of 2025, an implosion too severe to blame on economic headwinds or EV hesitancy alone. The unraveling began the moment Dodge killed off its crown jewels, the Charger and Challenger, and tried to reboot its image with electric replacements. The loyalists? They walked. Michael Rodriguez, who ran a Dodge dealership in Dallas for over 3 decades, meets me in his now quiet showroom. What was once a hive of revving engines and deal-making energy is now a near-empty shell, overseen by a small team liquidating inventory. "I couldn't give these electric Chargers away," he says, nodding toward a sun-baked row of untouched EVs. "They've been sitting here for over 200 days. Meanwhile, customers come in asking for used gas-powered models." His tone sharpens. Dodge threw away everything that made it great, affordable American muscle, and replaced it with overpriced EVs nobody asked for. 3 years ago, Michael moved 85 units a month. Last month, 11. All at losses. But behind the showroom glass, something more deliberate is happening. Stellantis isn't just watching Dodge die, they're steering it, Michael confides. They're offering buyouts, waiving facility standards, making it easy to exit. It's a controlled shutdown. What he describes is a strategic retreat, dismantling the Dodge dealer network piece by piece, minimizing backlash as they quietly usher the brand into retirement. And Dodge isn't the only casualty. Chrysler, Dodge's corporate sibling, is even closer to the end. Once an industry powerhouse that invented the minivan and produced sedans that lined American driveways, Chrysler now offers just one model, the Pacifica. "Chrysler's already dead," says Dealer Association President Robert Chen flatly. "They're just keeping it on life support to avoid legal headaches. One vehicle doesn't make a brand." When a car maker trims a brand down to a single nameplate, it's not a pivot, it's a death knell. And the fallout isn't confined to factories and showrooms. In Brampton, Ontario, where Dodge vehicles were assembled for decades, Stellantis plans to shut down the plant next year. That one decision will erase 3,400 jobs and up to 12,000 more across the region. Mayor Jennifer Walsh drives me past tidy neighborhoods built on auto industry wages. "These aren't just jobs," she says. "These are foundations for families, for local businesses, for entire communities. When the plant closes, everything around it feels the shock." At a local diner, we sit with workers facing uncertain futures. Mark Stevens, a 27-year veteran of the line, stares into his coffee. "I'm 54. What do I do now? This job was supposed to take me to retirement. It was supposed to be enough." Dodge and Chrysler aren't just brands. They're a part of America's cultural DNA. They stood for power, grit, and blue-collar pride. Their disappearance signals more than a business failure. It's a symbolic collapse of a once dominant American industry. And this extinction crisis isn't isolated to Stellantis. Another American icon is quietly heading for the same cliff, and almost no one is paying attention. While brands like Nissan and Dodge collapse in full view, another automaker is vanishing almost silently, fading from the American market with barely a headline. Mitsubishi, once known for its rally heritage and reliable SUVs, is becoming an afterthought. Sales are plummeting, dealerships are disappearing, and the company has no clear plan or will to stay competitive in the US. Mitsubishi has become invisible to most American buyers, says auto analyst Robert Park as he scrolls through the brand's declining numbers in his Chicago office. The lineup is outdated, the marketing budget is nearly gone, and the dealer network has shrunk below 300 nationwide. That invisibility is reflected in the data. Mitsubishi's U.S. sales have dropped 37% over the past 2 years, even as the overall market rebounded. From a peak of 345,000 annual units, the brand now struggles to move 75,000. But what's most alarming isn't how fast it's happening, it's how quietly. In Phoenix, Thomas Wilson shows me around his former Mitsubishi dealership, now a used car lot. He gave up the franchise earlier this year, without any pushback or plan from corporate. "I was the last Mitsubishi dealer in a city of 1.6 million, he says, looking out at the skyline. "We used to have 7 dealers here. Now, there are 0. Mitsubishi hasn't replaced a single one. This isn't an accident, it's strategy." Thomas pulls up a map showing Mitsubishi's eroding footprint. When a dealer shuts down, that market just goes dark. They're not recruiting replacements, they're just letting the brand fade. Instead of announcing a dramatic exit, Mitsubishi is quietly backing out, shrinking its US presence through attrition. No headlines, no press releases, just silence. That retreat became even clearer when Mitsubishi announced it was discontinuing the Mirage, the last sub-20,000 new car in America, and the brand's best-selling model. "The Mirage was the only car keeping foot traffic coming in," says Sarah Chen, a former dealer now running a used car business. "Without it, there's nothing left to draw in buyers. Most dealers won't survive." The Mirage's death marks a major turning point. Mitsubishi isn't even trying to replace it. Instead, it's redirecting resources to more profitable markets in Southeast Asia and Oceania. And Mitsubishi's quiet disappearance carries broader implications. The company is part of the Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi alliance, a partnership that was supposed to create synergy and cost-saving scale. Instead, it's become a shared liability. The alliance is crumbling, warns industry expert Maria Santos at a recent auto conference. Renault just took an $11 billion loss on its Nissan stake. Nissan is bleeding billions. Mitsubishi is pulling out of markets. Rather than lift each other up, they're dragging each other down. What was once hailed as the future of global auto collaboration is now unraveling. Mitsubishi's exit from the US is a cautionary tale. Not every brand will crash and burn in public. Some will simply stop showing up, leaving dealers stranded and customers with orphaned cars before they even realize what's happened. This is the future of automotive collapse. Not always loud, but just as final. Get my free guide. Avoid these 17 cars in 2025. By visiting the link in the description, understanding which vehicles to avoid is crucial as these brands face extinction. The extinction of automotive brands isn't a new phenomenon. Dozens of nameplates have disappeared over the decades. What's different about the current extinction event is the unprecedented speed at which established brands are collapsing. Maria Santos, an industry analyst who has developed an extinction probability model based on key indicators, invites me to her Manhattan office to review her latest findings. Her model has successfully predicted the exit of 11 automotive brands over the past 2 decades with 94% accuracy. Brand extinction used to be a slow, gradual process that played out over many years, Maria explains, pulling up charts showing the accelerating pace of brand disappearances. 20 years ago, it took 7 to 10 years for a troubled brand to disappear. Today, it can happen in 18 to 24 months because parent companies are making faster, more decisive portfolio decisions. The accelerated timeline represents a fundamental change in how automotive conglomerates manage underperforming brands. Rather than allowing troubled nameplates to linger for years, they're making quicker decisions to cut losses and reallocate resources. Maria's extinction model currently shows 7 automotive brands with extinction probability above 85% by the end of 2026. These brands are in various stages of the extinction process, but all are showing the critical indicators of imminent market exit. Brand extinction follows a predictable pattern, she explains, walking me through her model's key indicators. First, the product pipeline dries up. You stop seeing concept cars and future product announcements. Then the marketing budget gets cut, so the brand fades from public consciousness. Then the dealer network starts to contract. Then inventory levels spike as sales decline. The final stage is when the parent company stops mentioning the brand's future in investor presentations. The pattern Maria describes is playing out in real time across multiple automotive brands, creating an extinction timeline that's accelerating with each passing month. The accelerated extinction timeline is creating unprecedented challenges for dealers affiliated with at-risk brands. Rather than having years to prepare for potential brand disappearance, they now have months to make critical business decisions. Jennifer Walsh, president of a regional dealer association, meets me at her office where she's counseling dealers from multiple at-risk brands. Smart dealers can read the writing on the wall, she explains, showing me a confidential survey of dealer sentiment. They're not waiting for the official announcement that their brand is being discontinued. They're taking action now to protect their businesses and their customers. The proactive dealer response represents a vote of no confidence in the future of troubled brands. When dealers start abandoning a brand before the official extinction announcement, it accelerates the brand's decline and brings forward the extinction timeline. But the most significant impact of the accelerated extinction timeline is on the aftermarket support ecosystem that serves existing owners. When automotive brands exited the market in previous decades, they typically provided parts and warranty support for 10 years. However, the current financial crisis is forcing companies to reduce this commitment to as little as 5 to 7 years, leaving owners of extinct brands with limited support options. The support cliff is getting steeper and closer, explains aftermarket specialist Robert Park during our tour of his parts warehouse. Gesturing toward shelves of components for discontinued brands, he continues, "Owners of discontinued brands used to have a decade of manufacturer support. Now, they might have half that time before they're completely on their own for parts and service." The shortened support timeline represents a significant risk for customers who own vehicles from brands facing extinction. Their vehicles could become difficult and expensive to maintain much sooner than historical precedent would suggest. To understand the real-world impact of this accelerated extinction timeline, I meet with Sarah Martinez, who purchased a new Infiniti Q50 just 18 months before the brand announced its market exit. Her experience illustrates the challenges facing millions of owners of at-risk brands. "I paid $58,000 for this car," Sarah explains, gesturing toward her luxury sedan parked in her driveway. "Now, dealers are offering me $22,000 for a trade-in. The value collapsed overnight when Infiniti announced they were leaving the market." Her voice tightens with frustration. "I'm underwater on my loan by thousands of dollars, stuck with a car that's losing value by the day, and worried about future service and parts availability." Sarah's situation is playing out across America as owners of at-risk brands face the financial and practical consequences of the accelerated extinction timeline. The rapid disappearance of established brands is creating a class of automotive refugees. Owners, stranded with rapidly depreciating assets and uncertain support futures. The accelerated extinction timeline is also affecting manufacturer behavior in unexpected ways. Brands that might have been given years to attempt turnarounds are now being cut loose at the first signs of trouble, creating a ruthless Darwinian environment where only the strongest brands survive. "The days of patient capital in the automotive industry are over," explains industry consultant Michael Chen during our interview. Parent companies are making cold, calculated decisions about brand viability on much shorter timelines. If a brand isn't performing, they'll cut it loose rather than investing in a multi-year turnaround attempt. This shift in manufacturer behavior is creating a self-reinforcing cycle where brands perceived to be at risk experience accelerated decline as dealers, customers, and suppliers all begin to distance themselves from the troubled nameplate. The extinction timeline that once gave brands years to recover from missteps now gives them months, creating an environment where even established nameplates can disappear with shocking speed. The extinction of major automotive brands creates both challenges and opportunities for consumers who need to navigate this rapidly changing landscape. Understanding which brands have staying power and which are facing extinction will be crucial for every automotive purchase decision in the coming years. For current owners of at-risk brands, the key challenge is managing the long-term ownership experience of a vehicle that may soon become orphaned. This requires a proactive approach that goes beyond traditional ownership practices. Sarah Chen, an automotive consumer advocate who previously worked for 3 now extinct brands, meets me at her office where she counsels owners of at-risk vehicles. If you own a vehicle from a brand facing extinction, you need to start preparing now, she advises, showing me the survival guide she's created for owners. Find independent mechanics who specialize in your brand. Identify alternative parts sources. Consider extended warranty options from third-party providers. And most importantly, adjust your ownership timeline expectations. The ownership adjustment represents a fundamental change in how consumers think about vehicles from at-risk brands. Instead of the traditional 7 to 10-year ownership cycle, they may need to consider a 3 to 5-year timeline to avoid the worst impacts of brand extinction. But the brand apocalypse extends beyond just current owners to prospective buyers who need to make informed decisions about which brands to consider and which to avoid. The extinction risk creates potential buying opportunities for informed consumers who understand both the risks and benefits of purchasing vehicles from brands facing uncertain futures. Dealers with at-risk brands are offering unprecedented discounts to move inventory, explains consumer advocate Robert Park as we tour a multi-brand auto mall where several endangered nameplates are being sold at dramatic discounts. We're seeing 30 to 40% discounts on new vehicles from brands like Infiniti, Mitsubishi, and Dodge. For some buyers, these discounts may outweigh the long-term risks of brand extinction. The discount opportunity represents a potential value proposition for buyers who plan shorter ownership periods or who have access to independent service options for long-term maintenance. But the most important aspect of navigating the brand apocalypse is understanding which brands have long-term viability in the changing automotive landscape. The brands with the strongest survival probability share common characteristics. They have clear identity, strong parent company support, robust dealer networks, and product pipelines focused on future mobility trends. The survivors will be brands with purpose and identity, predicts industry analyst Maria Santos as we conclude our interview. Toyota, Honda, and Subaru in the mainstream segment. Mercedes, BMW, and Lexus in the luxury segment. These brands know exactly what they stand for and have parent companies fully committed to their long-term success. The survivor identification represents a crucial insight for consumers making long-term automotive purchase decisions. By focusing on brands with clear identity and strong parent company support, buyers can minimize the risk of future brand extinction. The brand apocalypse has also revealed something even more significant about the future of automotive retail. The traditional brand-centric approach to car buying is being replaced by a platform-centric approach where the underlying vehicle architecture matters more than the nameplate on the hood. Smart buyers are looking beyond the badge to the platform, explains automotive technology expert Jennifer Walsh during our tour of a vehicle testing facility. They want to know which other vehicles share the same architecture, which ensures parts availability and service support, even if a specific brand disappears. The platform focus represents a fundamental shift in consumer purchasing behavior from brand loyalty to platform knowledge. Buyers are researching which vehicles share components and architecture to ensure long-term supportability. As we conclude our investigation into the automotive brand extinction event, one thing becomes clear. The brands that are disappearing by 2026 won't be the last to exit the market. The automotive industry is undergoing a fundamental restructuring that will likely eliminate half of the current brands over the next decade. The question isn't whether more brands will disappear, it's which ones will be next and how quickly they'll exit. The extinction wave is just beginning, and only the most informed consumers will navigate it successfully.